Hi all, let's have a look at another fascinating encounter from the Altibox Norway Blitz. So this is a very interesting encounter between Magnus Carlsen and Levon Aronian. Knight f3 by Magnus, the Reti opening, named after Richard Reti, one of the leading hypermodernists. d5 we have g3, knight f6, bishop g2, so it's a kind of reverse King's Indian at the moment. But now white commits with d4. In the King's Indian attack it's d3, so this is more about controlling key dart squares. Let's see, is that the most popular move in the position? Either c4 or d4. Yeah, d3 is a little bit less popular actually. Black castles, knight bd2, b6, and now we have c4. And quite often in this position there's a trendy move, bishop a6, just to try and encourage white to play, I believe, knight e5. This is very interesting. Well, there's a pin there, so that pawn's pinned, and games sometimes go like this. We reach this position. In the game continuation, it doesn't seem such a big deal. Bishop b7 is played, and this is fairly stable anyway. b3, c5. White took on c5, bishop takes, bishop b2, d takes, knight takes c4. There's an element of a bit of uncomfortableness in black's position. White's controlling a lot of dart squares here. But is that element sufficient for any meaningful advantage? Both black bishops seem fine. We have queen e7, a3 with the idea b4. That is a direct threat on that bishop. And black addresses this, it seems, adequately with a5, queen b1, which has the threat now of knight g5, which would hit b7, and threaten bishop takes f6, which would mean queen takes h7 is a quick knockout blow for this Blitz game. Black reacted here with knight bd7. This is a good reaction, because after knight g5, this knight's protecting this one, and this bishop can sort itself out by swapping on g2. We have h6, the knight goes to e4, rook ac8, rook d1. We have a pair of knights coming off, knight f6, the queen parks on f3. White does have a tangible edge here, it seems. If you look at white's position, it's quite comfortable. Although the fianchetto bishop's gone, the queen's nicely protecting light squares. White seems to enjoy a nice grip on e5 in particular, so the pieces seem a little bit more coordinated. We have rook fd8, h4, knight d5, which allows white, that's used as a shield to potentially double pawns now with rook d3. And at this moment, perhaps black should actually just retract his move with knight f6. This is starting to get a little bit of a concern, this position. Maybe, knight f6 should be okay, if we can have a pair of rooks coming off. White's a little bit comfortable, but it's no more than a small advantage, it seems. So we have, now after rook d3, we have the move a4. And now there is a little bit of a concern, in my view, about this bishop on c5. Although here it seems that the bishop's not a problem, because there's a tactical concept of the knight being loose here on c4. If we try and play b4 in this position, then bishop takes f2 looks like an idea. Let's have a quick look. Or even better, maybe, white might just move the knight, and there's bishop e3 here, and it gets a little bit tactical actually. So Magnus is punting for b4, but in this particular position, even better than bishop takes is actually bishop takes b4, perhaps. But anyway, Magnus is trying to improve b4. He plays e4 first. the knight goes back. Now he swaps on d8. The queen takes, and he gains the tempo. And now finally b4. Has black taken a small risk here, or is this idea of playing on this c4 knight adequate? One thing about this position is that now bishop takes b4, there's knight takes b6, and that's annoying, hitting the rook. If say rook b8, bishop takes f6, queen takes, queen takes. This position, there's knight d7, and white is winning here. For example, knight takes is winning the rook. Yeah, here we can just take on b4. So that's not working. Bishop takes b4 is not working as well at all as before. In fact, probably the best move is a tactical response now in the form of b5. But having to play a precise move like this is hard in Blitz, but it should be about equal. If b takes, this position, when white's holding on, it seems, to that pawn, it should be only a small advantage to white, I believe, with best play. There's another way of playing this, which is in this position, knight a5, but again it's only a small edge for white, it seems. There's no major disaster for black. But black here played bishop takes f2 instead of b5. So relying on that loose piece on c4, did Magnus blunder? Was this some sort of blunder? Well, here we have a very, very powerful move played by Magnus Carlsen. Can you see what it is? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video starting from now. Okay, he simply protects that. Yeah, he simply protects that. So the bishop is struggling to find a square. You might think, well, hang on, isn't there b5? Let's see, have a look. b5 wasn't played. If b5, there's knight d6. And the fascinating thing here is that white's winning material. For example, rook d8. White can snap on f6 first. This is important to avoid the knight takes e4 resource, which might creep in. Queen takes f2, and there's a nasty pin here. After rook takes d6, queen c5, and the queen's protected by the pawn. So there's rook d2, we can just take. There's no way of black avoiding material loss here. And there's no check on this diagonal. Remember, Magnus played e4. There's no check to save black. So that's a nasty continuation, basically. So b5, there's knight d6. Let's have a look at this again. If rook c6, again, we can just take here, and then not queen c5 because there's knight takes e4. But first taking on f6, and then queen c5 is winning, same position. So this is why b5 here is not helping. We have bishop takes g3. But the queen is standing guard here. The king just takes on g3. Piece up for 2 pawns. But this is a significant advantage now for white. Knight d6 to address the check. White takes here. Check. White's a piece up, basically. g5, that's taken. Rook g1. And now e5 piercing into black's king side. Piece up. There's no point playing on here for black. So I thought this was an interesting blitz game. It seems a tactical liability, the bishop, was kind of, in a theoretical sense, permitted, because it was thought that the loose knight perhaps on c4, white couldn't play for this. It turns out black could have perhaps maintained near equality with b5, but in the event he kind of got his bishop trapped. it was a slight theoretical concern anyway. You know, when black had played a5 to stop b4, and then the tactical a4 move, maybe it just shows, you know, sometimes you play these moves like a4 and then a little bit of the prophylaxis has gone from the position, so b4 under the right configuration might actually be really, really dangerous then for black, but it has to be the exact configuration, and Magnus seemed to find that where b4 could be effective. Okay, but black didn't play b5. That was the only way to stay in the game here. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks very much.